Michaela Vernava for NESN.com. I'm joined by Dr. Ann McKee, neuropathologist and director of the CTE Center at Boston University. Dr. McKee, thanks for talking with us today.
My pleasure.
Now, you had a great panel here at the BU Sports Communication Summit talking about the future of sports, which obviously CTE is a huge topic. And you talked about the moment when Jeff Miller, executive for the NFL, admitted the link between CTE and football. How monumental was that moment?
Well, I have to say, I was stunned at the time. Hearing the question, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this is, and I'm watching it like a ping pong game. And then he said it, and I was floored. I was really floored. But I didn't think it would make any difference because I'm so used to it now, just not making any difference. No matter what we say, people dismiss it, and people tell us CTE doesn't exist. And so I was really gratified the next morning to sort of wake up and read all these news reports, and it was just amazing. It was just incredible.
Well, you did say that once it sunk in, your question was sort of what's next? And that's my question. What is next? What needs to be next after this admission?
Well, I think we really need to seriously address this, and my concern is that we really need to protect our young athletes and figure out ways to lessen this injury and identify it during life, and of course treat this injury once it occurs. And we just need a huge awareness. We need funding from private sectors as well as governmental agencies, and we really need to, as a country, come together to address and answer these questions.
You did touch on that you've been asked whether you will save or destroy the sport of football. Do you think this issue does have the potential to extinguish the NFL down the road?
I feel that football is so ingrained in our society as a culture, as part of universities, as part of whole communities, that I can't imagine a world without football. But I really want to make it a game that's safe, and especially safe for the young kids that are playing this sport. I don't think kids that are young should be playing. I think we should leave it to the mature athletes, the ones who have good neck strength, can develop clear athletic skills to lessen the amount of head impacts. And also are adults, so they can make the decision themselves. But I'd like to see it out of the youth leagues.
Especially in the media, the NFL is really under the microscope and seems to take a lot of the heat when it comes to head injury. But what about other sports? What about the NHL? What about soccer?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the NFL is definitely in on the spotlight, but NHL, we've seen the disease in hockey players, especially the ones that are enforcers because they get lots of head injury. And we see it in soccer, not as often, and it's probably not going to be as high a risk as football, but it's certainly there. So all these sports need to take head impacts out of their game and do everything they can with technique and skills learning just to reduce the danger for these athletes.
Have you had a chance to study the brains of any hockey players?
Yes, absolutely. We studied Derek Bugard and a number of others. Steve Montador wasn't studied by our group, but another person that developed CTE. And we've seen CTE in hockey players. I don't think it's going to be quite as common as it is in football, but it's definitely in hockey.
How impactful is it for you to get a pledge for a brain donation from a woman like Brandi Chastain?
Oh my God, that is just so amazing. I mean, we need to understand female brains and how they're susceptible. Historically, these sports have been a male-dominated domain, but now we know women are playing them and women are in the military, and we need to understand the gender differences between developing this disease. And so we're really hoping that women come forward, women that have experienced head injury, even if they're doing well, because of course they are very important for us to study. We need athletes and military veterans who've experienced head trauma, even if they're asymptomatic. In fact, maybe even more importantly, if they're doing well, to pledge to donate their brain.
Well, you've really emphasized the importance of protecting children. So aside from sports, what about things like recreational water sports, roller coasters, scenarios where people's heads are being rattled around?
Well, it's an acceleration-deceleration injury even in those like roller coasters, but it's a much smaller scale. It's just not the level of force is just about 10 times less than it is in football. So it's a danger, but it's a much lower danger.
Dr. Ann McKee, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.